Welcome to Saratoga National Historical Park in upstate New York. When people think of the American Revolution, they often think of events like the Boston Tea Party, or the famous shot heard round the world in Concord, or the movement of cannons along the Knox Trail. But the conflict didn't stay in Massachusetts. Here at Saratoga in 1777, the Revolution reached a moment that would change the course of the entire war. It's 1777, during the American Revolutionary War. The war is nearly 2 years old, and the Patriots haven't won a major battle yet. The British are frustrated too. They've been forced to leave important cities, including Boston. The British believe New England is the heart of the rebellion, so their plan is to cut it off from the rest of the colonies. They come to Saratoga thinking they're about to finish the job. The Americans prepare, knowing this might be their one last chance to turn the war around. This house belonged to Philip Schuyler, one of the most important American leaders at the start of the war. He wasn't just a general. He was trusted, experienced, and deeply respected. But when the British Army started moving south from Canada, things went wrong. Supplies were short, communication broke down. The American Army struggled to stop the British quickly enough. Schuyler was blamed. Even though most of the problems were out of his control, he was removed from command. The Americans knew something had to change. The British Army was getting closer, and this time, the Americans could not afford to retreat anymore. This is Neilson Farm. It doesn't look like much now, but in 1777, this area became the front line of the war. Horatio Gates, the replacement for Philip Schuyler, set up his headquarters here. This farm became the command center of the American Army. The British general, John Burgoyne, was marching south from Canada. He believed he could push through this area and force the Americans to retreat once again. But as his troops moved closer, American scouts spotted them. Small clashes broke out. Orders became unclear. Confusion spread quickly. The fighting that began here didn't stay here. It spilled into the nearby woods and fields and turned into a much larger battle. This is Freeman's farm. Surrounded by thick forest, it became the site of the first major clash of the Saratoga campaign. Unlike Neilson Farm, where fighting began suddenly and scattered, this is where both armies committed to battle. The British advanced in columns, expecting to move through quickly. Instead, American soldiers, many hidden in the woods, kept attacking from different directions. One of the most important American leaders here was Benedict Arnold. At this point in the war, Arnold was known as one of the bravest and most aggressive commanders in the Continental Army. Arnold believed the Americans should attack quickly and forcefully. He wanted to strike the British hard before they could organize. The fighting here lasted for hours. By the end of the day, the British held the field, but they had lost many men. Arnold believed the Americans had proven they could stop the British Army. Freeman's farm showed that the British could be hurt, and it showed that one bold, determined leader can change how a battle unfolded, even when others disagreed. This open area was once a wheat field, farmland that suddenly became part of the battlefield. As fighting spread from the woods at Freeman's farm, soldiers from both sides poured into this open field. Lines broke down, units mixed together, smoke filled the air, making it hard to see or hear commands. In the woods, soldiers hid, but in the wheat fields, they were exposed. Both sides fought hard here, but neither side could fully take control. This ridge is called Bemis Heights. The Americans chose it because it was high ground. From here, they could see the British coming, and the British would have to fight uphill. If the British wanted to move south, they had to get past this ridge. The Americans didn't need to chase the British anymore. They just needed to hold. By the time the British reached Bemis Heights, they were in trouble. They were far from supplies, exhausted from marching, and still waiting for help that never arrived. When the fighting began, the British tried again and again to break through the American defenses. But each attack was slowed by the hills, trees, and American fire from above. The British lost men they couldn't replace. The Americans held their position. Once the British failed to break through here, their options disappeared. What came next wasn't another march. It was the beginning of the end. This area was called the Great Redoubt. A redoubt was a strong defensive position built with dirt walls, logs, and trenches. This was one of the strongest places in the British line. American forces attacked the Great Redoubt directly. The fighting was intense and close. Eventually, the Americans broke through and captured the position. With their defenses shattered and no escape south, the British had only one option left. On October 17, 1777, the British Army, led by John Burgoyne, officially surrendered to the American forces under Horatio Gates. After losing ground at Bemis Heights and the Great Redoubt, the British were surrounded. They were out of supplies, no help arrived. Moving forward was impossible, and moving back was too dangerous. The American victory at Saratoga changed how the world saw the war. For the first time, it was clear that the Americans could defeat a major British army. Because of this victory, France decided to support the American cause with money, supplies, and soldiers. As we leave Saratoga, it's important to remember that this place didn't just witness a battle, it witnessed a turning point. The war didn't end at Saratoga, there were still years of fighting ahead. But after this moment, the story changed. Other nations began to believe in the American cause, and the people fighting for independence began to believe in themselves.